Hello, and welcome to another video in the Navigating the Windows Environment with a Screen Reader series. Today, we're going to take a look at moving, organizing, and renaming files and folders in File Explorer. Before we get too far along, just a quick reminder that though we will be using JAWS for Windows as our screen reader for this demonstration, you can use whatever screen reader that you're the most comfortable with that works in the Windows environment. All of the processes and commands that we will be utilizing are completely Windows-based. Please also keep in mind that any tutor messages or screen reader feedback that you're going to be hearing will differ from what you hear in this video, even if you're using JAWS, because your Windows or screen reader settings may be a little bit different than how I have mine set up. So let's go ahead and jump in. This lesson is going to put some of the things that we learned in previous videos into practical practice. So that's going to be a little bit different than what we have done previously. I'm going to open a test folder that I created specifically for this lesson. So I'm going to open File Explorer by pressing Windows E.
Windows E. Amy-Vidby.
I'm going to press Shift F6 to go to my navigation pane.
Shift F6. Navigation pane preview.
And I'm going to press T for test folder.
Test folder left parent OneDrive right parent closed.
And enter to open it.
Enter.
Now I want to press F6 to move to the Contents panel.
F6. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected animals not checked. 7/27/2026 4:24 p.m. File folder 1 of 9. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
So this gave me a lot of information. It told me that I have 9 items in this folder. The folder that has focus right now is a file folder, and it's called Animals. This is going to be mainly an exercise in cutting, copying, and pasting, as well as a little bit of renaming or creating a new folder. Let's focus first on cut, copy, and paste. In a previous video, an example that I provided was the folder hierarchy involving a folder called Animals. That folder contained 2 folders called Mammals and Birds, and that folder was also divided down into subfolders. I'm going to navigate this area and navigate the 8 Microsoft Word files that are in this area, and we're going to place them in the appropriate folders using cut, copy, and paste commands. In case you don't remember, I will be talking about which folders are located where. You will be familiar with your own folder structure, so don't worry too much about what happens in this example other than the commands that I am using. I'm going to use a down arrow to find the first Microsoft Word file.
Bald eagle checked 2 of 9.
Bald eagle. There are lots of different ways to move a folder or a file, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to cut and copy. If I want to cut this file and then paste it into a different folder, I can do that. I'm going to press Ctrl+X to cut this file.
Cut.
Cut places the file on your clipboard and keeps it there until you're ready to paste it somewhere else. I'm going to use the up arrow to find the Animals folder.
Animals checked 1 of 9.
I'm going to open that.
Enter. Animals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Birds not checked. 7/27/2026 4:24 p.m. File folder 1 of 2.
So I know I want to put this in the Birds folder. So I'm going to select that by pressing space.
Space checked.
And open it by pressing enter.
Enter. Birds. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Eagles not checked. 7/22/2026 12:48 p.m. File folder 1 of 2.
This is a folder called Eagles. Again, I'm going to select
Space
it.
checked.
And I'm going to open it with enter.
Enter. Eagles. Items view multi-select list box. This folder is empty.
I'm going to paste that file that I cut to my clipboard by pressing Ctrl plus the letter V as in Victor.
Pasted. Items view multi-select list box. This folder is empty. Not selected. Bald eagle. Not checked. 1 of 1. Checked.
I can come back a folder by pressing Alt plus up arrow.
Birds. Items view. Animals. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Animals. Not checked.
Now let's use my first letter navigation to see if bald eagle has been moved. So I'm going to press B. There is not a file with the letter B. It has been cut from this folder and pasted to another. Let's do that again. I'm going to use the down arrow to select the next file.
B. Cardinal. Checked. 2 of 8.
Cardinal. I'm going to press Control plus X to cut that file to my clipboard.
Cut.
And then I'm going to navigate to the Animals folder.
Animals. Checked. 1 of 8.
Open with Enter.
Enter. Animals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Birds. Not checked. Base. Checked.
Select birds with space, then open it with Enter.
Enter. Birds. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Eagles. Not checked. 7/29/2026 8:07 a.m. File folder. 1 of 2.
In this case, I know I don't want to move it into the Eagles folder because the cardinal's not an eagle. So let's go down.
Sparrows. Checked. 2 of 2.
A cardinal is also not a sparrow. And therefore, that's the end of this. So there's only 2 file folders. So I could choose to put it in the eagle folder or the sparrow folder. Or I'm going to take the third option and I'm just going to place it here by pressing Control V because it is a bird, but it is neither an eagle nor a sparrow. So Control plus V as in Victor to paste.
Pasted. Cardinal. Checked. 3 of 3.
I'm going to come back up to my previous folder.
Animals. Items view multi-select list box. Birds. Not checked. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Animals. Checked. 7/27/2026.
I'm back in my test folder, and I'm going to do the same thing one more time with the next item in my list. So I'm going to press down arrow.
Elephant. Checked. 2 of 7.
Elephant. Perfect. I'm going to cut this file to my clipboard with Control plus X.
Cut.
I'm going to navigate back up to Animals.
Animals. Checked. 1 of 7.
Open it with Enter.
Enter. Animals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Birds. Not checked.
In this case, I'm not going to go into the birds folder because an elephant is not a bird. So I'm going to go down 1.
Mammals. Checked. 2 of 2.
2 of 2. So this must be the only other folder. Well, it is a mammal, so I'm going to press Enter to open the mammals folder.
Enter. Mammals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Cats. Not checked. 7/27/2026.
An elephant is not a cat, so I'm going to press down arrow to see what my other choice is.
Dogs. Checked. 2 of 2.
2 of 2. It's also not a dog. So I'm just going to place it right here in this mammals folder by pressing Control plus V or Victor to paste it.
Pasted. Elephant. Checked. 3 of 3.
So I'm going to press Alt plus up arrow to go back to my test folder again.
Animals. Items view. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Animals. Not checked. 7/27/2026.
Let's try something a little different here. Let's talk about how to copy a file and what the difference is between cutting and copying. I'm going to use my down arrow to select the next file in my list.
House sparrow. Checked. 2 of 6.
House sparrow. Okay, I know where to put that. Instead of doing Control X to cut, I'm going to Control C, as in Charlie, to copy. Copy means I'm putting a copy of this on the keyboard. I'm not cutting the file out. I'm just placing a copy of it on the clipboard. I'm going to press Control C here.
Copied.
This means that a copy has been added to the clipboard. So I'm going to come up to Animals.
Animals. Checked. 1 of 6.
Open that folder.
Enter. Animals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Birds. Not checked. 7/29/20 space. Checked.
Select birds.
Enter. Birds. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Eagles. Not checked. 7 sparrows. Checked. 2 of 3.
It is a sparrow, so I'm going to open this folder.
Enter. Sparrows. Items view multi-select list box. This folder is empty.
And I'm going to paste it just as I did before. Control V, Victor.
Pasted. House sparrow not checked. 1 of 1.
All right. So now I'm going to come back to my test folder and you'll see the difference. So House Sparrows is here in this Sparrows folder.
Birds. Items view multi. Birds not checked. 1. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Animals checked. 7/27/2026. House sparrow checked. 2 of 6.
So I press my down arrow and House Sparrow is still here. And that is because, remember, I copied it to the clipboard. I didn't cut it to the clipboard. Let's do that again with the next item.
Labrador checked. 3 of 6.
Labrador. So again, I'm going to press Control C to copy this to my clipboard.
Copied.
I'm going to come up to animals. Actually, this time I'm just going to press A.
Animals not checked. 1 of 6.
Open it up.
Enter. Animals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Birds not checked.
I know it's a mammal, so I'm going to press M.
Mammals not checked. 2 of 2.
Enter.
Enter. Mammals. Items view multi-select list box.
And I know it is a dog, so I'm going to press D.
Dogs not checked. 2 of 3.
Enter to open.
Enter. Not selected. This folder is empty. Dogs. Items view multi-select list box. This folder is empty.
And Control plus V to paste it.
Pasted. Labrador not checked. 1 of 1.
Let's go back to our test folder.
Mammals. Animals. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Animals not checked.
So now we're in our test folder, animals, and let's see if Labrador is still there. So I'm going to press L.
Labrador not checked. 3 of 6.
Yep, it's still there because remember, I copied and pasted it. I could do that again with the next one, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to show you now is how to delete a file that you no longer need. We don't need a copy of House Sparrow or Labrador. So I'm going to press the delete key on Labrador.
Not selected. Persian not checked. 3 of 5.
Now you'll hear that it didn't say deleted, but if I press L, it's not there anymore. I'm going to use an up arrow.
L. House sparrow checked. 2 of 5.
And press delete again.
Not selected. Persian not checked. 2 of 4.
Let's talk about renaming. Sometimes you might have a name of a file that you really realize that isn't exactly fitting or you want to change. Other than doing it from within the open file, there are ways to do it within File Explorer. First, let's make sure that the file we want to rename is selected. So I'm going to find the Persian file.
Animals. Persian checked. 2 of 4.
And it's checked. So to rename it, I would press F2.
F2. Edit. Persian. Type in text.
Now, the text for Persian is selected. So if I began typing here, I would overwrite the name of this file. I don't want to do that. I just want to add the word cat to the end. So I'm going to press the end key.
End.
And I want to see if there's a space here because I'm not sure if there is or not.
End. Blank. Blank.
There isn't. So I'm going to do
Space.
cat. So I'm calling it Persian cat. And I'm going to press enter to finish.
Cat. Enter. Items view multi-select list box. Persian checked. 7/27/2026 4:26 p.m. Microsoft Word document 0 KB 2 of 4.
So as you heard, it didn't report that I changed the name, but let's use an up and down arrow to see.
Persian cat checked. 2 of 4.
It did change the name. Let's cut and paste this file into the appropriate place, except I'm not going to repeat my exact steps every time I go through it. I'm just going to do that. So,
cut. Animals. Enter. Animals. Mammals. Enter. Mammals. Items. Dogs. Cats. Checked. Enter. Cats. Items view pasted. Persian cat not checked.
So do you see how quickly I did that, knowing my file structure without reporting exactly what I did? I'm going to go back to that test folder.
Items view list box. Animals. Test folder.
Once I get a good rhythm and I know my folder structure and I know what I'm doing, it moves a lot quicker than what it sounds like it does in these videos. The last thing I'm going to show you how to do is create a new folder. I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to call it plants. So I'm going to do Control-Shift-N.
Control-Shift-N. Edit. New folder. Type in text. Type in text.
And as I said before, this text is all highlighted, so I can just type plants. Enter.
Plants. Enter. Items view multi-select list box. New folder checked. Schnauzer check. Plants checked. 2 of 4.
Okay, so now I have a folder called plants. Pretty easy, right? So I can create folders inside of folders, move files, move folders, and cut, copy, and delete. I hope this video has been helpful for you and has been a good practical exercise in how to use the navigation commands as well as how to use some file organization strategies. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great day.